What if I told you that there was an easy way to take institutional knowledge, team workflows, and convert it into AI workflows using Claude skills? Human in the Loop starts now.
I don't know about you, man, but I am ready for this episode based on that intro. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. This is
Good.
dude, it's been fun, man. This is our fourth episode now of AI for Enterprise. It's just been fun, right? I think you and I from the get-go have just been like, we're passionate about AI. We do it. We want to talk about it. Like maybe you like something, maybe you don't. We just want to put it out there, and it's been kind of cool to shift this into the enterprise world given our backgrounds.
Exactly, man. We build a lot of stuff for our personal usage, but you and I both have these conversations. You and your kind of job, me with my training and the business consulting, and we've got a lot to share. And our goal is to always bring in practical kind of ideas and advice to manage AI in organizations. So here we are. And today we're gonna skill max.
Skill max. I know you coined that term a week ago, man, and I need this to be trademarked now. Skill max.
I think.
And
all right.
Yeah, it's something I actually when you and I first started chatting, right? Like, we go back a few years, but we didn't really start chatting about AI until a few months ago. Like, you really influenced me to use skills more. Because I remember, I was like, oh my gosh, I can build an agent in Claude, and it's like really easy. And then I can use Claude to build agents, and like everyone's talking about agents, so I should have a lot of agents. And it really wasn't until I started talking to you, just like understanding probably the real value is with skills.
Yeah, and I have I was the same way. Like last summer, I built teams of agents and I ran workflows in end-to-end, all of that.
Right.
I think when skills dropped, I was going through my Claude Code phase. And immediately I started kind of building simple skills. I downloaded a bunch from the Anthropic marketplace. And in the past few months, at least 3 to 4 months, I have kind of figured out how to use skills to automate a lot of my operations.
Yes.
A lot. And you use skills to update Human in the Loop, the website. Every time we turn over an episode, there's a bunch of stuff that has to be done.
This entire podcast is built with skills, right? And I've evolved that into like, I have orchestrating skills that call other skills, right? And like, it's just, I think we said this last week too. Like, I see skills as that like in between deterministic outputs that are predictable, right? And like having AI, and how can we make AI predictable, do the same outcome, reduce hallucinations, like all of that.
Exactly.
Skills are money, man.
Skills are money. And I got a friend, Andrew Bloomsome. Big shout out, Andrew. He's a great Replit user. He called skills pays the bills.
Skills pays the bill.
Skills pay the bills. And recently I did a training for a educational consulting company. And that's how I discovered Claude Teams skills, which are part of Claude's Teams subscriptions. So they are educational consultants. A lot of them work with the same kind of data. They have processes that they all have to follow for client engagements. We actually build team skills for them, which are the one particular skill for a process that can be shared with everybody that is on a Claude Team subscription. So today, let's just do a quick dive into what skills are, right? Skills are basically packaged instructions for your AI. Skills as a standard were released by Anthropic in November 2025. And in 2 months, 16 other companies adopted it as a standard for packaging instructions for LLMs.
They've taken off, right?
Yeah,
they've taken off. I did a workshop a couple weeks ago. I flew out to California, like I'll ever send to go into SoCal, and just to kind of talk like how it was for a Microsoft event, bringing in like teaching agents, right? How to get people to build their own agents, and like it was cool for me because a big part of that was like teaching them how to also build skills inside M365 Copilot Agent Builder. So even if you haven't gone into like the Pro Code Copilot Studio or like or low code and then Pro Code something else, like Microsoft and all these other vendors, and it was a skill.md file, and it's the same thing, right? Like how can you create a skill to do something, and then how can you scale it out to the rest of your company?
Exactly. And they're portable, which means you can build it for one system. They all follow the same standard. It's a folder with a skill.md file. And the skill.md file is instructions written in plain English. It's not code, it's
Right.
nothing. So you can take that from OpenAI, Claude, take it to, like, if you have a bunch of coding skills, you can take it from Replit to Cursor and use it. So they're portable. They can be run on demand, and they're reusable. Like, the best analogy I use for my trainings is this one. If there are any Matrix fans, there's this scene in the Matrix with Neo and Trinity on the roof, and they're trying to make a getaway from the agents. Trinity calls Tank, "Hey, there's a B-212 helicopter here. I need to program to drive the helicopter." Tank streams it. She downloads it. Boom, they fly away on the helicopter. So skills are just like that. Capabilities for your agents available on demand. So it's, the other analogy I always share with folks in my training is skills are the recipe, right? And utensils, silverware, that's the tool. So skills are the recipe to get things done. And skills can be anything. They can be something simple as how to create a doc, how to create a PDF. It can be something simple as brand guide, voice
How to
instructions,
authenticate, right? Every
how
single
to
time.
authenticate.
If you don't want to go
Yep.
the MCP route because you know that MCP, you don't use it too often, you don't want it to take up context every time, right? But
Yeah.
you get tired of passing authentication credentials, and like this may or not be a personal trauma of mine that I lived through over and over again, that I've built like slash Google Auth slash Graph Auth, right? For those reasons, just to authenticate the same way every time.
Exactly. For my own coding projects, I've got an auth skill as well. I've got a security review skill, and there's a bunch of skills that call each other as well. So skills can actually be nested. You can have a multi-agentic skill that is calling other skills in between. It's just instructions for a specific process. They're packaged. But how does that kind of help teams? In Claude, if you're using Claude Teams subscriptions, they have something called organizational skills, which
Right.
means you can provision skills and make it available for certain groups or the entire organization. Now, that becomes very important because then you really are looking at ways to make your entire team more productive. And you can also build skills that execute a certain process very consistently and predictably. So you're introducing determinism in there. And also you can have a predictable token cost. Because imagine this, like, you and I are both marketers on a marketing team, right? You're writing copy, I'm writing copy. Maybe they're different for different projects. Both of us have instructions on what kind of voice and tone to use to write copy. But if I'm using AI to write it, I have to go back and forth with AI, ChatGPT, Claude to write it. That's a lot of token usage. The goal is to have one copywriting voice skill, which can be used by both marketers or anybody on the team. It produces consistent output. The token cost is predictable. That's kind of the idea behind institutional knowledge framed as skills.
Yeah, when I think about like when I first had like an idea for something like human in the loop, right? Just a way, the whole point of why we built this is how can we just come up with a way to share things that we do, right? We
Yeah.
can call them best practices. I don't want to pretend that I'm more important than I am. Like I like to share things that have been helpful for me. Like in a sense, like we could say each episode is a skill, right? Like I think of skills, especially in the sense of an enterprise, as like if someone does something and they do it pretty well with their AI world, like a skill is how you can extend that to other people with the same job description, but might not be doing it, right? Like, and you're getting predictable outcomes. And I love what you said there, man. And you get predictable token usage too.
Exactly. So, and the other thing is, like, when you're using shared skills for the team, they can be shared across the team. They're consistent output, and they always behave exactly the same way. And you can take any kind of sort of institutional knowledge, tribal knowledge, process knowledge, and convert that is documented, right? This is brand instructions, how to run marketing research, legal research, operational research, operational actions, whatever it is that you do. If they can be defined as a crisp process, And you can basically create a skill and have an agent execute it for you consistently. And you will always get that consistent output. So, what kind of skills can you actually create for the team, right? It can be anything. Like if you're in a sales team, you could have skills like briefing on a prospect, or if you can have a skill for outreach, right? You're running cold outreach for your SDRs in a startup. You can have skills for outreach sequences, deal summarization, battle card, competitive battle card generator. If there's knowledge sitting somewhere in your organization, you can create workflows using skills to access that knowledge and execute process. Same with marketing, same with operations. You can create skills for any process that is repeatable and that can be defined clearly.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's tricky, right? I'm curious how you see this because, like go back to sales for a second. As you were
yeah,
going through sales here, Sash, like where I feel like most of the content that I see about this is like promoting agents, right? Like
yeah,
have a prospect agent, have an outreach agent, have a deal agent, have a battle card agent. And like I said, going back to you've influenced me to change this, not as sexy, but I think instead of an agent, a lot of
yeah.
times I think what we really need is a skill. I got this newsletter a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple months ago at this point, where the subject is, bro, you don't need an agent. Shout
That
out,
was
shout
me.
out, shout out Riff
Uh,
Lab agent from Sash for that. I think it's spot on, right? Because a lot of times I don't want to say
yeah,
agent is overkill, and I'm curious like where you would kind of defer that.
yeah,
But in my experience, the more that I use AI, the more skills that I find myself
yeah,
building, and
yeah,
I've deleted agents.
yeah.
My agentic team has decreased as my skill
Let's
big
Yeah,
time
and
gone up.
I've been the same way. As a matter of fact, Anthropic actually recommends build skills, not agents. This is a great video by Barry Zhang and Mahesh, who are researchers in Anthropic. So they basically walk through why you should be building skills, not agents. Let's take the example you just said, right? Prospect briefing agent could be an agent, deal summary agent, outreach agent. Now, put that into an enterprise context. If you want to build agents for these, you have to build it in some platform, right? And these agents will need to be managed and built on that platform. Then all your employees will have access to it. And that's token cost per agent. And with an agent also, right? Sometimes you just don't need it. You don't
Right.
need an agent to do what a skill can do in Claude or OpenAI chat. Where I kind of say people, the reason why you would need to build an agent is if a skill is doing too many things where the primary agent that is executing the skill runs into context pollution issues. So, for example, you have a skill that does research, briefing, analysis, all of that. And a single agent trying to execute that skill will fill up the context window and you lose quality. In that case, you should separate it. You should have a research agent and a briefing agent and an analysis agent. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. But how do you kind of provision it? This is Anthropic's documentation. Now, I don't have a Claude Team subscription, so I can't really show exactly how it shows up. But at a high level, what you can do with your organizational Claude subscriptions is you can have owner provision skills, you can have peer to peer shared skills. So I can create a skill in my team. And if you've defined organizational teams in your Claude subscriptions, I can just share my skill with my team. So marketing people can have their marketing skills. Or you can have organizational skills for an entire company. That could be standards of how you communicate or standards of branding, that kind of stuff. So you can have like multi-tiered skills
Yep.
that are either owners only, any member, or shared org wide. So that's kind of the idea of using skills for you know making consistent processes based on institutional knowledge.
Yep. And I've done some of this, right? Like, and like because my company does have, we had Claude Team, but now we have Claude Enterprise. And it
Yeah,
is right there. It's pretty easy to use, right? Like you can go into
it
to
is.
Claude Desktop, you can go into Claude AI. There's artifacts you can pull in. You can create your own skills if you have those permissions. But I think going into like Enterprise, right? Again,
Yeah,
this is a way to, because we talked about this, right? Like shadow AI,
yeah,
responsible AI. It's a way to not just create best practices for like productivity, but a way to create best practices for governance, right? Like
Exactly.
you encourage skills that are, in a way, it's like bringing pro dev to pro code to low code, right? Like have your
Yes.
have your sharp AI architects, engineers, like create skills, have a
Yeah.
COE or whatever kind of, champion led environment to promote those, and then now you're getting your frontline workers to do the things at scale that are approved by your smart people, right?
Exactly. And if you come back to the whole conversation around sort of token usage and trying to figure out quantitative ROI from chat users based on a subscription you're paying for a seat, this really helps because
Big time.
you can clearly define what the outcome a skill is going to get you. And if your entire team is using it, then there's your productivity metric right there. One thing I want to say for Anthropic's plugin structure. So Claude Cowork is huge in knowledge work. It's very agentic. We did an episode on Claude Cowork as well. Check out that episode on the Human in the Loop website. But they have something called plugins. Plugins are bundles of skills. And Cowork, you can bundle a plugin which can have multiple skills. So I can create something called RiffLab Marketing Plugin, which will have a bunch of RiffLab marketing skills and share that with my team. And you can centrally manage that. You can update it. You can evaluate how it's working. And it's great because you can assign these plugins to specific groups in your enterprise. You don't have to do it org-wide. Marketing gets only marketing plugins. Sales gets the sales plugins. I've also seen one of my clients, they actually downloaded the standard marketing plugin from the Anthropic marketplace and used Claude to customize it into their company's marketing plugin. And then that was published to the marketing team. And honestly, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but this is what will give you consistency in execution with AI, consistency in token usage, consistency in output. And it's actually very easy to do. It's
I
not very
mean, it's
difficult to do at all.
think about it, right? Like I think of this like if I'm going to build a presentation that I'm going to share um, as someone in my company to a customer,
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that there is a template or a standard
Uh-huh.
PowerPoint theme presentation
Yeah.
style for me to use, right? Like we
Yeah.
want consistent messaging, we want consistent branding. It's we say it every time, right? There's nothing new
Yeah.
about AI in terms of how we surround it. It's the same
No,
stuff, right? Like that's what skills do. And
exactly.
I think one thing to extend skills with, right, is like skills aren't just because you mentioned when you first were describing what a skill was, you were like skills live inside a folder, right? And then you said skill is there's a markdown or real text. Is there anything else, Sash, that goes into like what else would be in that folder other than the markdown?
Well, it depends on really the skill. So I can show you here. So these are my skills. So for example, I've got a create doc skill, and there's nothing else that is needed to execute the skill as a reference. So this just has the create doc folder, and under that is the skill.md, which has the instruction. However, I have a different skill called deep research. This is a multi-agentic skill. Now, this has 4 other files in it, which are reference files. They provide context about the process. So it really depends on how complex your workflow is that you're trying to execute with skills. It
Mhm.
can have reference files, context files, templates, whatever that you need to execute that skill will sit in that folder along with the skill.md, which has the instructions to execute. So,
Yeah, I
and
I think that's a big one
you
that
don't need to. Sorry, go ahead.
no, just saying, I think that's a big thing like there of like I have skills as well. Like you can create templates folder that can, hey,
Yes.
here is an example of what this should look like. Use this as a reference. There's even like
Yep.
some that have like scripts. If you have a skill
Yep.
that needs to call a Python script to do something, right? Like
Yep.
that's in there. So when you package this, you package this folder up. And like if you've used Claude Teams or Claude Enterprise, like you will upload this folder, this skill
Exactly.
folder, right? And so all this gets inherited through your Anthropic.
Exactly. And then you don't need to write any of this by hand. You just go through the process with Claude and describe the process, break it down, have Claude execute it, iterate. Once you get the output that you want, ask Claude to convert it into a skill. That's the easiest way to do it. And then Claude's going to look through all the basically process you went through in executing the workflow. And any changes you ask it to make during iterations, it's going to take that into account and package up the skill for you. One thing I want to mention in Claude, skills that you're created in chat and Cowork are interchangeably available. Skills that you create in code, Claude Code, are not available in Cowork because their packaging mechanism is different. So you might have to recreate skills that were created in Cowork in code if you need to use them.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting, and I hadn't thought about that, but as you did that, I was thinking about a skill that I created in Claude Code that I was trying to serve up in Cowork for the team, and my skill was I was taking an image file and embedding it into an Excel spreadsheet, like actually putting the image in there, and but of course with Cowork, I learned that Claude can't actually take that entire image. It can see what's in there, but it doesn't have access to the actual binary file. And couldn't do that. So that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I think skills are the way to go. Any kind of repeatable process can and should be converted into a skill. You can create skills for your teams, share it with people, just make things easier for them.
Yeah, I'm finding it out myself, right? Like when I am building things with Claude or Hermes or whatever, I am using agents to build certain parts of it, right? Calling sub agents. I'm using agents to review certain parts of it. But outside of that, like I'm finding myself using agents less and less and using skills, right? Like a common plugin that I use is the superpowers plugin. And one of the skills of the superpowers, right? It's a collection of skills. So you talked about it's the brainstorming one. And I use that, right? And that's how I iterate. I go back and forth, I ask questions, I go and I created a plan mode skill that does specifically what I want while in Claude plan mode. And like, again, I've just shifted away because to your point, like with agents, it has the intelligence that I want, but it doesn't necessarily produce the consistency of what I need.
Yes. Correct. Because agents can take different paths to get to the goal, and it's not going to be the same unless it's defined.
One of us.
That's funny, dude.
Good stuff.
Wow.
So, I think we were initially planning on this being like the last episode in this series. But I think we got one more little trick up our sleeve. And given everything we've been talking about, responsible AI, token maxing, shadow AI, and then now like creating institutional like knowledge at scale, should we actually bring someone on next week to talk about how they are seeing enterprise AI in their world?
I think so. We might have a guest and who's from the enterprise world, and let's see what they have up their sleeve.
Yeah. So if you like Sash and I so much that you like us with one other person, we're having our second ever guest presenter on next week. Take all of this, talk about how they are doing it in the real world.
Of course. Excited
Love
about
it.
that.
Yeah. Sash, good stuff, man. Always a pleasure.
Always.
See you next week, brother.
Have a great weekend.
Take care.
All right.